2nd, 2024 Beacon City School District Board Meeting to order. Can I have a motion to amend the regular meeting agenda?
So moved.
Anthony, second by Eunice. Comments or questions? This is just so we, because we're going to an early exec to meet with a potential law firm. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing matters leading to the appointment of a particular corporation? And the board will return in at 7 o'clock.
So moved. Second?
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 5-0. Patience. We didn't do the pledge, so let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, sorry, please remain standing for a moment of silence for James Alhorand, former Glenham Elementary principal. Thank you. Vicki, do you mind calling the roll?
Present.
Here? Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
She's here. Here, thank you. She is, she just ran to the bathroom. Matt, do you mind reviewing the fire exits?
Yeah, the exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you.
Although I'm not able to get on either now.
And public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none. We have a workshop tonight is from Brian Soltish, principal of Rombat Middle School. Do you mind just waiting 1 second until Flora gets here? I just thought we could.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. I'd like to recognize my two assistant principals first, Mrs. Pacino and Mr. Carafano. I was told I had an hour for this presentation now. Just kidding. Throughout the slides, I might not read off of every slide that I have. I might just highlight some of the things from the slide. If you happen to look at something that you want more information on, feel free to ask me to go back to that, but just in the interest of time, I'll try not to go through every single thing we wrote down on every slide. So first up, looking at academic excellence, we really had a great honor recently at Rombat Middle School, and that is we had a student as a runner-up in the Hispanic Heritage Essay Contest, and that is the tri-state area. So that student, Davia Kelleher, a 7th grader at Rombat Middle School, was honored. We had a little celebration at Rombat Middle School, but she competed with over probably 2,000 to 2,500 different students to become the runner-up for that contest. We have never had a student finish at that type of placement before, so that was really a big honor. They came and did a nice ceremony. She spoke at it. It was really very nice. And we are really proud of her and look forward to keep up the good work with our foreign language department. We also had a Martin Luther King Jr. Essay Contest winner at Rombat Middle School, and that was Suvi O'Shea. So we've had 2 winners in the last few months that we are very proud of. In terms of some of our other things that we have for academic excellence, we have our Student of the Month, which is what we do with the Elks Club, and they come each month to recognize a student from each grade level for their contributions to the school. And we do a teacher lesson of the month that our students vote on, and that allows one of our teachers to get up on the bulletin board, and the students will tell us about the lesson they did, why they liked it. Really a nice twist off of Student of the Month, and it gives our students an opportunity to kind of highlight our teachers and what they really enjoyed in the classroom. In terms of high-quality curriculum, we are continuing on with iReady. We have our computer-based testing simulation is happening this week at Roundabout Middle School. We are excited about the first annual district art show, which will be coming up. We have an additional guidance counselor for sixth grade this year at Roundabout Middle School, and that is making a huge difference for us. So we have, instead of 2 counselors this year, we have 3. So Mrs. Patterson is our sixth grade counselor. She is dedicated solely to the sixth graders at Roundabout Middle School, and that position is a new position for us that was created this year, and it's going to do a lot for us to help a transition into the middle school as we work through the school year. So she'll be working with the elementary schools as we get to the springtime for transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade. She is also pushing into the classes on a quarterly basis to talk to the current 6th graders about different transition topics as we go through the school year. So I had the honor of going in and watching her speak in one of the social studies classes. So in the first quarter, she went into all the social studies classes and did lessons in there. And she's got different topics for each quarter based on where we're at in the school year, from navigating the building to balancing all your different classes with teachers, to at the end of the year talking about how to prepare for final exams. She's talked about lockers and using the locker and how to manage time and their planners. So having a guidance counselor dedicated solely to the sixth graders, I think, is a really big bonus for us at Roundabout. And I think as the position goes on and on, we're going to see more benefit to the transition from elementary school to the middle school. We also had an addition of a .5 general music teacher, and that was Mr. Mills. You wouldn't know Mr. Mills as .5 because he seems to be at Roundabout Middle School full-time, but he's really fit in well with our staff and our students. He's at a lot of events, often cheering the loudest for our students. He, even though he's only doing general music, will help out after school and at the concerts with our band and chorus students. So he has really added to our music department in a positive way. And then in terms of the high quality curriculum, we are running 3 sections of the living environment Regents class at Roundabout Middle School. That is, typically we used to run 2 sections every year. So last year we started with 3. So we are now at 3 sections of that. And that has allowed us to get more students into the program. And that is going well. We also have 3 sections of the algebra Regents for 8th graders. And Mrs. DeCandy and Mrs. Hughes and Mrs. Miroff, we had a nice opportunity for our Spanish classes during Hispanic Heritage Month. They were able to have a dancer come in and teach the students in their first 4 periods about the Bamba dance. So that is one of the pictures, if you notice in the upper left, that is Mrs. DeCandy's classroom. And we do have opportunity possibly in the future to bring them back again on a bigger capacity. So they donated their time to Roundabout Middle School, and the reviews from the students and the staff were very, very good in that classroom. Some of our iReady benchmark assessments. So we've just finished our 2nd assessment. So in terms of math, it's a 7% on grade level increase from the fall to the winter. So we went from 45 students in the fall to 59 in the winter on grade level. And you will also notice, if you're looking at the students that are 3 or more grade levels below, that is shrinking. So even though the numbers might not look perfect for everybody being on grade level, there is increases from the number of students who are significantly behind, lowering that to 1 to 2 grade levels. And in ELA, we were at 35% on grade level. We did not see as large of an increase in terms of on grade level, but we did see a significant decrease in the number of students that were 3 grade levels below. So we do have students improving. You know, one of the things with the iReady is we always try to talk to the students when we're doing the benchmark assessments to try their best. We know that sometimes they look at that and they don't always want to put their best foot forward, but we try to get them to just do the best they can on the assessments, try to take them serious so that the classroom teachers are getting the best possible information to assist with them. Okay, one of the things I wanted to talk about this evening was middle school electives. I've put / mandates. So at the middle school level, we call them electives, but they're not really electives because the state is telling you that these are all the requirements that a middle school student is supposed to achieve prior to leaving the middle school. So on the left-hand side, I tried to highlight the majority of the program requirements, and on the right-hand side, I tried to give you a little bit of a snapshot about what we do at Rombout. I did not put the core classes on there. So while you don't see ELA, math, science, and social studies, we are teaching ELA, math, science, and social studies, and in 6th grade, they have a double block of ELA. So in grades 5, 6, we don't have grade 5, we have grade 6. Some of the elective mandates that students are supposed to take are art, music, PE, health, technology, and career development. Based on the schedule we offer, we're not able to run all of those elective classes for our 6th graders, but what we do at Rombout Middle School is we run on an every other day cycle, so it's an A-B day cycle. We have an 8-period day. So after they get done with their 5 core classes, when I say 5, ELA is a block period at elementary level. So at the 6th grade level, you've got 2 periods for ELA, a period for math, a period for science, and a period for social studies. That's 5 of their classes. They have a lunch period, that's 6. So then you have 2 periods in our 8-period day where they're taking the elective classes. So the electives that we run for our 6th graders are PE, which is a mandate, art, music, and technology. And so those all go on an A-B day cycle throughout the entire year, meaning at the end of 6th grade, every student essentially would have a half unit or a half year of each of those electives. When we get to grades 7 and 8, according to what the state expectations are, PE is every other day. There is no exception to that, and there is no taking a student out of PE to put them in an AIS literacy or an AIS math or a support class. They must be in physical education every other day. So over the course of 7th and 8th grade, they've got the PE every other day. They need a half unit or a half year of health, a half year of art, a half year of music, which could be a combination of different things. It's general music, it's chorus, it's band. Language other than English, 1 unit. Career and technical education, 1 3/4 units. So what we do at Rombout Middle School is in 7th grade, the students are taking the 4 core classes and they're taking a year of Spanish, a year of Spanish or Italian, a foreign language. We do offer both now. So that gets them to 5, lunch is 6, and they have 2 periods then left, which we have elective mandates. In 7th grade, the elective mandates we run at middle school at Rombout are art, music, PE, and technology. So at the end of 7th grade, they have met their requirement for music and art, according to the state regulations. In 8th grade, they take language again for a full year. So that is in excess of what New York State requires, but by doing 2 years of a foreign language, if they take the 2 years, passing both years, and they pass the assessment at the end, they get their high school credit before they leave Rombout Middle School, which I think is a really, really nice thing going into high school. So that is what we currently offer. So then their 2 remaining periods in 8th grade, they are doing PE, home and careers, health, and technology. What that does is by having the technology each year and the home and careers, that's getting us close to our 1 3/4 units in technology. And it's also satisfying our need for the health and the home and careers piece. The reason I'm going through all this is art is something that has often come up at Rombout, and people are always curious, can we offer more? Are you able to offer more? So we love art. We want to do as much as we can, but I wanted to try to show you what we're required to offer because they're not really electives, they're really mandates. So we can't substitute any of these classes that we're offering currently, as we're offering them all at the bare minimum that's required from the state, outside of foreign language, which if we don't offer it 2 consecutive years, they cannot receive their high school credit before they get to high school. So what we have right now at Rombout Middle School, in 6th grade, students would take art every other day, like was on the previous slide. In 7th grade, they take art every other day. So by the end of 7th grade, students at Rombout Middle School have received 40 weeks of art instruction, and they've had their art class every other day for the entire school year, both in 6th grade and 7th grade. 8th grade, because we have to offer other elective mandates, we don't have the ability to offer art in the same sense that we offered it in grades 6 and 7. So what we do in 8th grade is we have advanced art. And the advanced art program is run before school. The high school buses do transport any student that is in the busing zone, transport them to Rombout. Students do have to apply to be in that class. There's a portfolio they have to submit, but I will tell you, we're not at the point where we're denying students entry to that unless they're not submitting a portfolio with appropriate artwork. So that class is almost like a 0 period at Rombout Middle School. It's happening from 7:30 until our first class. And they will receive a full credit of studio art at the conclusion of that if they're successful. So it does allow for them to get a credit. And after school, we do offer art club that is open to all grade levels. So again, what we're doing at Rombout is getting students 40 weeks of art. We have fabulous, amazing art teachers. We just don't have it currently sitting in 8th grade. In looking at what some other local districts do, there are a number of districts that have a different schedule than we do, but there are districts that offer art in 10-week and other elective mandates in 10-week increments. And so at some schools, a student will get art for 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, but they're only going to get it for 10 weeks each year. And those 10 weeks might be the first 10 weeks of the school year. So it could be, September through November, and then that's it for art for them for the entire year. And what those schools do is they're getting this in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 10 weeks, 10 weeks, 10 weeks. And those students are going to get 30 weeks of art. Yes, they get it over the course of 3 years, but I am not convinced that that's in the best interest of a student that's an avid art student or loves art. I feel like a student that loves art, having the opportunity to do it every other day all year long, as opposed to just 10 weeks in a semester, is a lot different. I will tell you, Wappingers offers it in 10-week sections. So they do 10 weeks in 7th and 10 weeks in 8th grade. The Wappingers district does not have 6th grade in their middle schools, but in their 2 middle schools, those students are getting 20 weeks of art at the conclusion of 8th grade. I've seen a lot of elementary schools. I've never seen one that runs art every other day, so I'm going to imagine that in 6th grade in the Wappingers district, they're probably not getting art every other day. In elementary school, I imagine they're operating on a 4-day cycle, similar to we do, or a 6-day cycle. Marlboro, their art education, they get it in 6th and 8th grade. They get a half year both times every other day, but they do not take it in 7th grade. They're just changing when they're offering one of their other electives. And in terms of the Arlington School District, they get 10 weeks in 6th grade. Then they do a semester in 7th grade, which is a 20-week portion. And then they're only offering advanced art in 8th grade. So just looking at a few of the local districts, I've not been able to find anybody that's offering more art than we are. Some offer the same amount, but nobody that's offering more with what we currently have. But I know that art is an important topic, and I know there's a lot of questions out there around it. And so I just kind of wanted to put some of this information out there. And if anyone has questions on it or thoughts, I'd be more than happy to take those now.
Brian, just for sixth grade, when
Sure.
you're saying what you're doing at Roundabout and you don't see health or career development, that's infused in the health is infused in the PE curriculum. and
Correct.
the, career development is infused
Correct.
in the technology
And those can
class.
be also infused at the fifth grade level because they just need it between fifth and sixth. So it doesn't just have to be all at the middle school. Like I know they do the puberty lessons in fifth grade at the elementary schools. So that's all part of that.
I just didn't want someone to think that they were
Yeah,
doing it.
no, absolutely.
Are the advanced art classes in eighth grade, are they fully subscribed?
We have not denied anybody yet, but we've been in the teens, anywhere from 14 to 18 students. But we haven't gotten to the point yet where we're turning students away based on the lack of availability of seats.
And do we
Has that
provide,
happened in the past, though?
We have had people in the past where the portfolio they submitted wasn't up to what the teachers were looking for.
Do you have a follow-up?
I'm just wondering, do we offer busing for that?
Yes, so they'll take the high school run in, which, yes, they are on with the high school students, but they can get up, because all the runs are the same routes. So they would transportation contacts them with the route over the summer, and lets them know what time the high school bus will come, and then the busing drops them off right at Roundabout Middle School. We have a security guard at the kiosk, and they can come in and sit and wait for the class to start at 7:30.
And is there any support for them putting together a portfolio if they
Yeah.
want to apply
That's what I was
for the
gonna
advanced
ask.
art?
I don't want to speak for my art teachers, but I believe that any student that goes to them looking for help and support, that they do it, because ultimately they want to push as many students as they can into that program. Sometimes they get people that all of a sudden are asking about it way after the deadline, and they don't have any of the things. So they put out all the information to all their students, and they really try to get them to do it. But they do have a level of expectation in terms of the quality of what they're going to put into the portfolio. So the students do have to do some work on their part just to display what they do and their desire to be in the class.
I think
I mean, if we got to the point where it was a seat issue, I would be going to you guys and saying, can we run another class? And I haven't had to do that yet because it has not come to me that way at all. But certainly that would be the best problem to have ever. And I think we probably would solve it relatively quickly.
Or you could do half credit
Right,
and split the
yes.
class in half. If you had 40 kids, you could do 20 first semester, 20 second
Right.
semester for half a credit instead of getting
Yeah.
the full
Right, although I
credit.
think that
I know, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm just looking,
parents
I'm
want
looking
to spend time,
financially.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the full credit does put them in line to get to the college level courses when they're up in the high school. So, I mean, in terms of the art program, I think running this class at Roundabout Middle School has been a huge success because those students that follow through in the program, and we know that, as you sequence out in the arts, it's going to be kids that are really, really into that. But it's opening a pathway for them that wasn't there prior to this existing.
And can I ask, do you know how many kids, in terms of the club membership, does the art club have
Oh, yeah, the art club is subscribed. I don't know what their enrollment has been yet this year, but between art club and home and careers, those are two of our most popular clubs. When we get to clubs, I'll tell you what the most popular one might be now. But those traditionally have been, over the last 3 years, the most well-attended clubs.
And I'm just wondering is there any room for the club to meet, because it probably meets once a week currently, is that right?
Yeah, I believe they're once a week or once every 2 weeks, but yes.
So maybe there would be room for the art club to be more active if.
There's a possibility. The issue you run into, especially with the clubs, is the students who are doing other things outside tend to struggle to commit much more than that one day. But that's the trouble with all the clubs. Certainly, if the kids were coming to us saying, we want more art club, again, I think that's something we would look for ways to offer it more often.
Just because it's such a centerpiece of this presentation, it would be good to know, if, what the like to just follow up and let us know what is the process of making kids aware of the portfolio requirements, since that is the cutoff point.
They do so the art teachers do that in every one of their classes, because we have all the 7th graders in art. So the portfolio information is given out to all of them and it's sent home, but it's because everybody's taking art in 7th grade. So they're all getting the information firsthand from the teachers, because they're applying in 7th grade. And I believe the deadline is usually early spring, so that we can inform students what's happening in the summertime.
And are they told there's a limited number of seats, or are they told the program could expand with interest?
I do not believe I'd have to ask my teacher what they say, but I'm not aware of them saying there's a limited number of seats. I know that they explain the portfolio and what they need to do to get in, and that, again, some of the things that detract from it is offered early. So you have to be willing to get up earlier and come to school earlier every day. And for some students, that's a little bit of a tough thing, because 7:30 in the morning is early. But for students that really love the art and want to do it, like, it's an amazing group of kids to start the morning.
Oh, yeah, nobody's questioning the kids.
It's
They're
wonderful.
great.
Like, it's a really relaxing way to start your day
Sure.
at the middle school.
Just because of one of the things you cited in the presentation about the increase in Regents classes being offered, I think that might be tracking with the change in population in Beacon, in terms of, maybe like how families are approaching academics. I am sort of envisioning in the future, it would be hard with a certain set of parents to say that this is sort of get into the class only based on your portfolio. I can imagine that the parents who are able to help and could help would be very instrumental in helping their kids put together that portfolio.
Yeah.
But one of our goals being equity,
Yep.
There'll be kids who won't have that support, won't have that help, will maybe be interested, but not particularly good self-advocates. And I think that the minute we run into that place of like, there's a limited number of seats, there's maybe going to be a point where a couple of, just to be very frank, very privileged kids are going to not make it. And there will be like a bit of a hornet's nest around that. So I think it's something we should probably be thinking about in our planning going forward, that we should consider what we'll do when we cross that bridge.
The good thing is that it's something that we're getting the interest level for early on in the spring. So it's not like this is something we're finding out in June and July, that all of a sudden there's 35 kids that want to be in advanced art and we're telling half of them they can't take it. We know if we were going to have a numbers issue, we would know in early spring, like, there's high interest and they're all submitting their portfolios. And oftentimes, a lot of the work that's going into their portfolios is the work they did during the school year. So it's some of their projects and what they've done throughout their career at Rombout to date.
Yeah, I'm just talking about future plans.
Yeah, yeah.
The spring would coincide with when we put together the budget, so you might be finding that out
Yep.
after we've already, put together the budget. So just something to think about in years ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I also think that having that third section, I think you're also talking about the advanced classes too, right? The math, living
I'm
environment?
saying that
Right.
that is, I think, tracking with,
Right. But I mean, having 3 sections of each is almost allowing upwards of 90 students, which out of 200 is a really good proportion of students in those advanced classes. So I think that's, if you're only talking 2 sections, 60 at the max, let's say.
Right.
But now upwards of 90, I think that is good planning if, we're giving more options to
sections.
students to take those classes.
Having 3 sections of both of those is really where we should be at right now. And it's given us good sizes, and it gives us the capability of, bringing more students aboard.
and are kids aware, this is one thing have heard from parents, that the classes that they are taking at the Regents level in the middle school will affect their high school GPA?
Yes.
Are they being sort of read into that when they're?
I mean, Mrs. Duvall and the math teachers definitely make them aware that it is high school level and it is going on their transcript.
I had, are you gonna move forward, or are we gonna do questions overall at the end?
I'm gonna move forward a little more, but I'll take anything.
I just on the previous slides about the fall ELA and winter, this is, like, is this,
This year?
right, but it's all students, or?
Yeah, it's the students that, overall, that took iReady at RMS, that took their benchmarks.
Okay, so there's no breakout by grade?
No, I don't have the breakout by grade, I just have
Okay.
the building level right now. Yeah. Right, we're not done, I mean, there are some outliers in benchmark, the winter benchmark that have not gotten done yet.
Okay.
Is it 21? Amanda just checked, we have 21 currently in advanced art at Rombout. So next up, I had diversity with experiences and opportunities. Any of you that know me know that I am very into the trips and trying to provide those opportunities and experiences for the students. So we have our DC trip ready to go. We are running the 7th grade trip to Boston this year, ready to go. Both trips currently have over 100 students enrolled on them. I would like to definitely say a special thank you to the Roundhouse. Their contribution to our scholarship fund to help students and families in need has been a huge help for us. And we currently, right now, just on our DC trip, are assisting, last I counted, 17 students to go. And we are, with those 17 students, somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 worth of scholarship funds to be able to go on the trip. So it's really a group effort, but some of the local people that assist with that, it's really very helpful for the district and for our students, so I can't thank them enough for that. And then in terms of clubs, some of our new clubs, we have creative writing, we have a game board club, we have Dungeons and Dragons club, and I think that is possibly overtaking all the clubs as the most popular club. They at one point, I made a joke, they had more students at that than one of our sports teams, which is one of our larger venue sports teams, had at their game. And I walked by the Dungeons and Dragons room, and there were like 25 kids with Mr. Gingulis in there, and they were having a blast. What's great to see about that is it's something the students have advocated for and asked for. We were able to offer it this year, and they are showing up, and they're just having a terrific time hanging out with their friends and playing. So it's really neat to watch. We also have the Video Media Technology Club as well, in addition to the traditional clubs we've had. Our athletics are up and running. Our student council is collaborating with the Beacon High School Student Council. So one of the things they did already was a coat drive that they collaborated with between the two different groups. Our PE department has run some of their, what we would say have become traditional trips now, but that I think are high quality, low cost, great experiences. And that is hiking up Mount Beacon. That's a neat experience for any kid to do, and the mountain is right here. Swimming in the high school pool, going on the bowling trip. So those are some of the things that our PE department has been doing. Plus, they do the field day at the end of each year. And then we also have our spirit weeks. We had multiple spirit weeks. We had a fall dance, and we had 2 pep rallies already this year planned by our student council. And our E&L class did a field trip to a local farm. In terms of community engagement, I'm not going to read through. The Monday message is a big one. Mr. Carafano works really hard to put a lot of information into that, a lot of time and effort, and I want to thank him for doing that. That is a lot, and it's really useful for parents and community members to be able to see what's happening at the school. Some of the other things that I wanted to talk about, I mean, you can see them on here. We did a RMS Honors Our Veterans initiative. And Mr. Carafano raised $1,000 to local VFW doing that. We have our sixth grade summer orientations. And with the sixth grade summer orientations, we also do a springtime orientation with the students at Rombout Middle School. So we bring the fifth graders into Rombout. It really is a great way to introduce them to the building. They spend a half day at Rombout, basically. They do an activity, they meet with Rombout students, they get a tour of the building from a Rombout sixth grade teacher, which is a much better tour than it is when it's a younger person doing it, because the teachers are projecting, they're showing them all these spots, and then our students will do a panel with them. So a lot of our current eighth grade students will sit on a panel and they can ask them questions, talk about their experiences. So we've been doing that. It's a very nice way to get our fifth graders coming in. And then we will have our summer orientation as well, where we're inviting parents to come into that prior to the school year starting. And one of the biggest additions at Rombout Middle School this year has been an aide that we have brought in, and that's Mr. Ed McNair. Ed McNair is a community member. He coaches in the community. He knows many of the kids, and we use him for just about everything at Rombout. He relates to our student body better than most people, so he helps us with peer interactions when students are struggling, getting along with their peers. He's often involved in shadowing students, helping us mediate with them, speaking to them. He pushes into classrooms to make sure they're making good decisions. We've used him in a variety of ways, and his demeanor and his rapport with our student body is outstanding. So I just want to thank you all for giving us that position this year. That position's made a huge difference inside of our school, and I just want you to know that. You don't probably know every time you hire an aide, it's making such a huge impact, but he's a huge impact in our building, and I want to thank you guys for allowing that position into the district, and just want you to know that we are utilizing that to the fullest extent possible on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions about the last slide? No, just a joke.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. You talked about the transition into Rombout. Are you, have you guys done any more for the transition between 8th and 9th grade?
Yeah, Mr. Dwyer has spoken to me a few times about plans to come down and how they want to do things with the 8th grade class for the middle school. So we're going to be meeting soon, but we've had multiple conversations with what the counselors up at the high school would like to do in terms of providing information to the middle school students and what that transition will look like for this year.
And I just wanted to say, I think the Dungeons and Dragons is great. I know they were doing it at the library, and we were talking about, can we get a bus from the middle school to the library so kids can take advantage of it? And I'm sure you're getting so much more participation because it's happening.
They are there. They're at the club.
That's great. That's great. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
you.
Next, we have comments from our student representatives to the board. Rachel and Sarah, how's it going? Regents Week. You guys, do you have any exams this week, or are you?
Taking the English Regents tomorrow, so yeah.
And there's a couple of finals this week, I guess.
Just government. Luckily.
Government tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, 7:30.
Good luck to both of you. Anything else you wanted to comment on?
No, we were mostly just wondering about the transitions between 5th grade and the middle school and 8th grade and high school. So I feel like that was covered pretty nicely in the
Addressed, yeah.
presentation. So that was going to be our main question.
Okay. Thank you. Do we need an exec session? Are there any questions that any board members have about the agenda? Okay. So, in reviewing the agenda, there are no additions or corrections. Sarah and Rachel, if you want to leave, you don't have to stay for this part. Thanks for coming. Good luck on your exams.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
We have a budget update.
So tonight for the superintendent update, we wanted to give an update on the governor's initial budget proposal. So you've probably already been hearing through news media that, just sort of all over the state, that the governor's initial proposed budget for next year is not great for a lot of local school districts. And so we certainly are one of those. So we dug in a little bit over the last couple of days just to provide just some initial information about it. Just want to add the caveat that obviously we're all experienced in the back and forth that happens in Albany over the next few months, and that the governor's initial budget, as many people see, as like it's like the opening of a negotiation between the governor and the legislature. So this is far from done. It's just really the beginning. But that said, we wanted to just kind of provide a little bit of background on what it all means and why. And so Anne Marie put that together for tonight.
Okay, thank you. So the state aid runs were generated as part of the governor's budget. And you remember last year, Governor Hochul's major point was fully funding foundation aid. So a lot of districts received a lot of additional aid. Beacon was in a hold harmless situation. Hold harmless means that although things have changed in your community, your enrollment, your wealth factor had changed, you still remain even with what you had received. And in that particular calculation, you were getting 3%. So you were seeing Beacon get 3% across the board. So these are just changes in the general state aid formula, which I had talked to two different organizations, Questar BOCES that does state aid planning, and also ASBO, which is the business official organization, about what exactly we're looking at. So in the governor's budget, she had chosen right now to do an inflation factor of 2.4%. The CPI index is 4.1. She usually stays with the whatever the current one is. So there was a reduction overall in all of the foundation aid. They're unsure where 2.4 came from, so they're doing a little more research on that. And the major thing that hit Beacon was there was the elimination of the same save harmless provision, which is what we've been under since 2001, 2002. So I'll get a little bit more into that. This is a graphic slide of kind of where we are as what Beacon's foundation aid looks like. So you can see the lines intersect at 21, 22. So that would show the year where we were fully funded appropriately for foundation aid. And then you're also seeing that on the red line, it's what foundation aid payable would be in the present law, which includes the hold harmless provision. The red dotted line underneath is more of the governor's proposal. So you're starting to see her proposal coming down, not holding us at hold harmless, and definitely not at the 3% increase. And then you're going to see the blue line. So the blue line is showing where, so we had been coming in receiving less in the foundation aid where it actually intersected 21, 22. And now you're seeing the blue line be the reduction of where Beacon's foundation aid should be based on the factors that we talked about.
How much of a reduction is the governor proposing?
So the governor is proposing a $1.4 million reduction in foundation aid. It's being offset by some of our expense-driven aids. So overall, it's about a $900,000 decrease overall in state aid for Beacon. This formula change has affected about 45% of the school districts are receiving less aid. So when I spoke to someone from ASBO, everyone is up in arms about how this is going to work. So we haven't kind of seen these negotiations, but this is like classic the older governor, where we were getting very lowball governors, and then we were getting, much more reasonable once the Senate and Assembly were giving it.
So that's the interesting part. This is back in like 2007, 8, where the governor would come out and then they would negotiate. However, there wasn't a tax levy then,
Correct.
right? So now there's a tax levy. So a district, when they're planning, They would take the the tax cap. They would take the average of what the Senate, the Assembly, and the governor had. They would average it out, and then they could figure out, oh, we have to go 7%, 8%. Now you can't do that. So it's like she's resetting the base, but yet we're still stuck with the tax cap.
Right.
Right.
So that's the dangerous game. Is
Yes.
like, how is that going to play out?
Right. So I can go back to the slide. I just wanted to kind of go through. So other factors concerning the budget. So the CPI, again, that 4.1%, we're stuck in the tax cap at 2%. So everything else is growing by 4, but yet we can only raise the allowable growth factor by 2. So you're right, that really limits us as to how much money we can generate through the tax base. The good news for Beacon, and I've been saying this, so of course, you know, our wealth factor is affecting our foundation aid, but our tax base growth factor is the highest in Dutchess County this year. So I'm going to talk a little bit more over the next meeting or two about what our tax cap is. So we are able to grow more than other districts in Dutchess County, but will it be enough to offset what she's reducing in the foundation aid? So that's the balancing game that we're doing. Also, Beacon's tax rate per thousand is the lowest since 2010-11. So that's another avenue. So our assessments have been increasing over the last, I would say, our tax rate has been going down, you know, over the last, you know, almost 10 years. So we're at a level where we were at 2010-11. So because we have more of a tax base to spread our tax levy over, theoretically, everyone's taxes will go down if their assessment remains the same. So our tax rate, and as we go on with the budget process, I'll actually show you the numbers of how that rate is going down.
If our assessment, based on what, because a lot of community members have received increases in our assessment, especially if you live in Beacon.
Right. But the tax rate per thousand is less. Assuming your assessment stayed the same, your taxes would go down. What we're seeing is people's assessment, especially in Beacon, are going up because of the value of their homes going up. But we also have properties that continually get added to the assessments every year. Mm-hmm. So there's more properties to spread out the tax levy with.
And do we find that out? We find that out when they come on the books. Is there any way of knowing, like for future planning, when things will be added?
So I reached out to the assessor in right now in Beacon, because Beacon seems to see the most growth, so I'm thinking that. So I'm trying to reach out to her to see if she could give me an estimate of what she's seeing, because now they're going to have their numbers together by March, April. We don't get the final assessments till the summer, but I'm sure they can give me an idea of, you know, average what people's houses are being increased by, and also how much of the value of the assessments will go on for this year, so we can kind of plan a little bit differently.
So you've reached out to her, but we don't know that.
Not yet.
She hasn't responded.
Right, but I'm,
Okay.
So we don't know our aid is going down for two reasons. One, she's just the hold harmless issue, but then also because of our wealth.
our wealth is starting to, so the easiest way would be to look at a chart, and you're seeing the adjusted gross income for our school district. So one of the factors is based on that. So we're seeing the adjusted gross income. When you do your New York State taxes, you have to pick your school district. That's exactly how they accumulate the information. You're starting to see the adjusted gross income increase. You're starting to see the expense-driven aid ratios, building aid, transportation aid. They're not going down significantly, but they're being reduced. It's more of a decline in those areas. And those are all based on, our federal grants, our free and reduced lunch numbers are less. So you're starting to just see it. It's not a huge hit, but it's progressively going down in the downwards rather than up.
And since this trajectory is continuing to go up, I mean, I think that that's something that we
should be
probably
thinking about strategically planning.
Because before, it always seemed like there was a bit of a mystery to how aid was calculated, and we didn't know, like, there was sort of a delay in how wealth factor would be. That's kind of what we always talked about, but now it's hitting.
We're in 2020, so we're 3 to 4 years behind. So 2020's information is being used for now.
Okay.
But there's a formula for the aid, but you're saying that it's connected to the cost wealth index?
It's a factor of, it's not the only. So enrollment also is a decline. Now, Beacon's enrollment is not significantly declined based on other districts, but we do not have the same amount of students that we have had. So you're starting to see that as well.
But that's the interesting part, is if you look at districts that are getting an increase, their population is declining as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there are other.
So I mean, like.
So there's other factors
that weigh-
besides
Those are the
enrollment.
factors, so I don't want you, like, my understanding of what you were saying, Marie, is like, because our cost wealth index is going up, we're gonna get less.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole piece of the formula.
Right.
Like, it's convoluted, it's like, I can't figure it out.
Right, well, that's why I was asking.
That's what I was
can-
asking about,
Can
'cause
we,
We're-
can we understand
Yeah.
the logic?
But if this is also 2020, if those are the numbers that are coming on, that's pre-pandemic and, or just as the pandemic hit. And I think anybody who lives here knows that
Right, the trend is gonna.
the trend is
it's gonna get
massively jumped, both in
steeper
terms
now.
of what people have paid for their houses, how they're being assessed, and probably what the household income that will be registered on tax return. So that is kind of, if that's a factor at all, it's going to exponentially probably change from 2020 to now.
Yeah, is there any one of these single factors that weighs the most in the calculation? Like, is there one thing above all others?
I've reached out, and again, I'm not an expert in how foundation aid is calculated, but I have reached out to people that are much more in the weeds on it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get that information to give you, the most information possible so that we can start moving forward, because this is a trend that we probably have to start addressing and think differently about.
But that's the hard part, is right, we're here trying to figure out what is the formula,
Yeah.
right? And we have a business official trying to figure out what is the
Yeah,
formula.
it's like it's
Like-
not written down anywhere.
But it has.
Share with the formula, so then at least you can predict and plan
Yeah.
appropriately whether it's
Plan.
going down or up.
We have kind of known about this for a while. This is something
We have,
But
we've
you're-
never been able to figure out, we've never
How to
been able
predict
to.
for it.
But no other district can do that either. I mean, we're not
No.
like, it's not like we're singularly.
No, that's what I'm
impacted by it.
saying
Yeah,
is,
so it's-
why not share the formula with the district so they can plan appropriately, whether it's going up or down?
Because then you actually would have data that a common set of eyes could look at, and then the negotiation would be based on data and not horse trading between the legislature and the governor. That's, the benefit is not knowing. That's where all the negotiation takes place. So it's not new either. It's something that we have known about, was a possibility for us. So it's here.
Our first clue was getting hold harmless. So last year too, we were getting the 3% where there were others. So now you're thinking too, there's other districts that were receiving an exorbitant amount of extra foundation aid, and now they're being reduced again. So, if you're looking, I happen to look at Dutchess County just for an example. So Dutchess County, we are not the only district losing foundation aid. Some of the bigger districts, like Arlington and Wappingers, are getting a little bit more foundation aid, but they're getting more expense-driven aids, right? So they have building projects going on or that thing. So or they're getting a lot of universal pre-K, because the universal pre-K money is in here too, so it kind of distorts the
Right.
total state aid. Ours is flat from last year to this year, so it doesn't have an impact. But, there's a lot of factors in it individually. Smaller districts north of Dutchess are losing, a lot smaller districts than us are losing the same amount of aid, that we're losing. So I will share whatever information I'm able to get with the board so that we can start, strategizing.
One thing I'm curious about is there's been large building projects that have come on the tax rolls. And I wonder if they are, and I know that the rents have significantly been increasing in Beacon, so the value of those properties has probably increased with that. But I wonder if they're being assessed at what they always sort of plan to be assessed at, or if it's possible that they will be assessed at the value they're bringing in, basically the revenue they're generating, probably for their investors, but is their tax burden shifting with the amount of money they're making, or is it remaining flat?
Right.
I'd be
Those
really
are-
curious to
My
know
sense,
that.
I mean, when I reached out to the assessor about the Mirabeau stuff, I really got the impression that they're not keeping that close an eye on this. There's just, I think manpower is part of it, it's just like they're not, it's not how they're looking at it.
Right, it's just that that's always been the thing about the large properties versus
Yeah.
single payer, single occupancy homes, is that your assessment will go up, you will pay more percentage of your household in taxes, but these large properties, if it requires a lot of effort and manpower, and then they can hire an attorney to argue it
Right.
down, then basically we've brought in a lot of these large projects that were supposed to generate revenue, to generate, maybe like retail revenue and things like that for Main Street, but that the burden will shift to single-family home percentage-wise for how much we pay, and those properties may not, they're profiting, but they might not be contributing as much as percentage-wise.
Some of the newer construction will come on in pieces, right? So you'll get a partial increase in, partial assessment, and then when they're completed. But whether their completed value of assessment is really truly what it should be is the question.
And they'll probably, when they create that assessment, they're putting in an average rent for most of them are rental properties, a lot of them aren't condos. So they're putting, but if we just looked at a condo, like for example, there's a condominium that just sold within a building that had been on the tax rolls for a few years, but it's selling at $2 million. And so that, I know it didn't come on that way, I don't know, that, that's a new property, so that's a new sale that will generate at that assessed value, but there's other, properties in that building.
Right.
That are not going to be taxed that way, but it's more the rental properties, because that assessment is based on what a projected average, but we all know those averages have gone up significantly.
Right.
So they're making a lot more money, but they're probably not paying more in taxes.
Paying is their fair share of
Right.
taxes, right? But I thought the
always the
conversation happening with the assessor now, at least, we usually kind of wait. I mean, I can give you historical data. You're really starting to see the total assessments percentage-wise going up over 10%. So, you're seeing that piece of it. I'm probably more interested in the newer properties coming on, because then you're spreading out the taxes
Yeah.
to a bigger base of units.
Anne Marie, back to the slide on was it the save provision?
The hold harmless provision, yes.
Yeah. So that money's going away, correct?
It is proposed to go away.
Proposed, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I thought that was the plan, but will we get a chance to see what has been, how that money's been spent over the past few years? So, or how, are we planning to, I just didn't know what the plan was for those, let's say, people or such that were hired with that money. How will we proceed with that? Is that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
because I know some things were hired with that to offset some of the other things that were going on at the time.
We'll be addressing that probably over the course of
Okay.
the next couple of months in different budget meetings.
Okay.
But it's something that we're obviously taking a really close look at right now in terms of what are the ones that we absolutely have to keep continuing, what are the ones that we can figure out like a different way to address, the issues we've been addressing with the position. But I think that will be really kind of the bulk of February and March.
Okay.
Budget updates and stuff.
Any other questions?
I just want to make another point. The interesting fact is that with the 4.1, I believe it was like $900 million. That's what it was projected, and it's at
Yeah.
418 million or something like that. If you look, New York State legalized gambling. Legalized gambling brings in $1.4 billion a year to New York State, and it's supposed to go towards education. Where's that money going?
It's a revenue source for the state, but it's not additional.
Yeah,
So
sure.
she's using the savings that she's getting from this to pay us, but then also for other things.
Yeah, where's that money going?
Right.
Well, is it earmarked for education, or is it sold as, it
I
could be
believe
used for
when they-
things like education? Like, because that was the one thing about the gambling thing. I remember looking at that for education.
It comes in as a separate revenue source for us, so we get lottery aid and we get, so it comes in
Right.
coded differently, so that's the revenue. I always thought when that first went on, I was like, oh, we're getting extra money, but it was the way the state paid
So
for it.
it's offsets, it's like they're using that to offset what money they
Yeah,
would give.
it's
Was
what they did in
earmarked.
Florida. That's how they sold the lottery. They said it was going to fund schools, and then they just took that money out the other side of the budget,
Yeah,
and then it just became
lottery money.
the source of funding.
Right.
So you can't teach probability in schools because
No,
then
'cause you gotta get
people
them to play
won't
the
buy
lottery.
lottery tickets.
Thank you.
Even though I still do buy my tickets.
I'm holding out hope.
I know, fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that partially someone was like, why did you give away everything at the very beginning
Exactly, last
Now-
year.
Then it just made people think about what they wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's back to the old.
I have hope, yes.
I'm more concerned about our growing wealth as a community and what that is gonna mean. I think that's.
In the long,
that's
yeah.
gonna
in
be
the
The
longer
past
run.
3 years, like, that number is bananas.
Okay, moving on to board comments. Semra?
Thanks for the report on the middle school. That was great. I love the transition work that you're doing from fifth to sixth and after eighth. All of that sounds great, and the clubs also sound wonderful. So I think thank you for that. That's it.
Thank you. Kristen?
Yeah, great report about the middle school. Thanks for the update. I'm glad, it's better to know early and start this conversation around the budget stuff. It is something we have been thinking about and talking about for a while, so it has arrived. But yeah, that's it. Thanks so much.
Eunice?
I'd just like to say that we have a District Wellness Committee meeting coming up February 8th, 4 o'clock at the library. I do want to confirm policy meeting next week, Monday, 6 o'clock work for everyone? I should ask Matt. Is 6 o'clock a better time than 7? Or are we keeping the 7 o'clock time?
6 is great.
All right,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Okay. Then I will not be there.
Yes, you won't be there. Thank you, that's it.
Till 6 o'clock. Alina?
Thank you for the presentation. It was really good. I know my kid, when she was there, benefited from every club that was there, and it helped her. She also took some of the advanced classes as well, which helped her. It actually benefits her by the time she gets to 11th grade with not being able to take more advanced courses because she was able to transfer in some of the high school credits from the middle school. So I think that that's amazing. She's my youngest daughter though is still upset she didn't go to to DC. So she's holding that against Mr. Soltish. And you said that the hiking is a unique experience. My kid would tell you uniquely bad. I think she walked halfway up and you had to walk her back down. She was like, "This is not for me." But it's nice. It's nice to hear and see all the things that they're doing in the middle school and. Especially the transition stuff from 5th to 6th grade, and to hear that transition from 8th to 9th is huge because you hear a lot of the high school students who complain that when the 9th graders come, they're just clueless and they're just like a terror in the hallways. So it's nice to build something with those 8th graders to get them acclimated and understand the flow of high school a little bit better and not just have them think, I'm in high school now, so in a sense I can act a fool. It's like, the same things you learned when you were in middle school, you take those with you to high school. I think it's a really good idea. And are we having the PROW meeting?
We are having it on February 5th.
Okay, so
before
my calendar
the
is correct.
BOE meeting.
Okay.
At 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Facilities and audit on Thursday?
On Thursday.
Okay, just
Yeah.
confirming.
At,
Yeah, so there's a facilities.
7 and 8, right, Henry?
Right, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Eric?
Yeah, thanks to Brian and the crew for the presentation. Very well done, appreciated it. And I just wanted to mention, it hit me a little hard this morning when I saw Mr. Herend had passed away. He was my principal when I was at Glenham. My mother was still in contact with him up till his end of his life, but he was a wonderful person and ran a great school, and it was sad to see him pass away. Were you, Anthony, same thing?
I was my
Yeah,
tenure.
that's what I thought, right?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah,
It
he was
was,
here.
I remember him playing kickball to show the kids how kickball was played, how you didn't have to be so competitive. But he had a unique background. If you read his obituary, I mean, his background was really unique, and he was there for quite some time. He was a unique person, awesome.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see what he did after his retirement.
100% I was too. I was so glad he was so active afterwards. But he was a great person for the school district, so.
I just remember Mrs. Van Buren keeping him in.
Oh, yeah. They were quite the team.
Is that the school secretary?
Secretary, yeah.
We weren't sure who the principal was.
Well, you know what they say.
Yeah, I know. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. And Anthony?
Mine was the same.
Okay. Flora?
Yeah, so the next Public Relations Advocacy and Legislative Committee meeting is February 2nd at 6 p.m. We're just gearing up for Lobby Day in Albany, and there will be more to report after that takes place on February 7th. There are a lot of activities happening with the Dutchess County School Boards Association Advocacy Committee, and so I think we're gonna have a very productive time. And I just wanted to say my son is deeply committed to the Dungeons and Dragons Club, so thank you for making it happen this year. Yeah, and he loves to come home and say, "I'm so busy, Mom. I have so much going on every day." So thanks for keeping him busy. I appreciate all the clubs.
Thank you. And the only comment I have is to just note that on the agenda, there is a change in the board meeting calendar because we had a board meeting scheduled during spring break. So now it's the week before in March. So if you already loaded it into your calendar, just make a note of that. We don't have any new or old business. So moving on to the consent agenda, the use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to have pulled?
I have one, 15.09, I-6.
Any others? Okay, can I have a motion to approve 1401 through 1804, less 1509 I-6?
So moved.
Second.
Laura, second by Kristen. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Also in favor, passes 8-0. Can I have a motion to approve 1509 I-6?
So moved.
Eunice,
A second.
second by Alina. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
One abstention, so I'm in favor, passes 7-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Alina, second by Flora. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Also in favor, passes 8-0. Have a great night, everybody.